Hi guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Thanks for joining me. And in this video I want to sort of follow on from the previous video I did looking at AI raw denoising. You've got to understand that raw denoising is different from the normal denoising that we're all used to and we've used for years, which is sort of one of the last things you do in your workflow, whereas raw denoising is the very first thing you do in your workflow. That's at least the best way of doing it. So anyway, what I want to do in this video is to actually address the problem that people who use Raw Therapee and Darktable have got, because even though the noise reduction in both programs is pretty good, it isn't a patch on what you can do with AI raw denoising. So what we're going to do is look at DXO, Pure Raw 3, and Topaz, not denoise AI, because they are sort of they're not doing a lot with denoise AI. There was an update to it about 3 or 4 months ago, I think, and they're putting all their development behind Photo AI, which is a combination of gigapixel AI, sharpen AI, and denoise AI. So it's like a multifaceted thing. And so that's where all the Topaz development's going, so hence we're using this latest offering from Topaz and pitching it against the latest offering from DXO relative to people who work in Raw Therapee and Darktable. So we're not going to be looking at anything to do with Adobe today, apart from the fact that we're going to look at an Adobe DNG, an undenoised Adobe DNG, in comparison to the other two types of DNG that we're going to get here, namely the one from DXO and namely the one from Topaz, because they are different. Yes, they are. Okie dokie. So how are we going to work this? Well, very simply, you can see I've got 2 images queued here in the latest version of Topaz Photo AI. We've got this one of this goshawk, which you can see with absolutely no denoising on it, and it's a little bit on the soft side as well. And yet, if you look at it over on the right, we're allowing Topaz Photo AI to use its autopilot settings, and you can see I'm only using the raw denoise, or raw remove noise, and autopilot wise it's coming in at strong with a strength of 2 and a detail of 52. This detail is what's making it go sharp, okay, because if I turn the detail off, you'll see it's pretty much as soft as this, but it is very effectively denoised, just with a strength setting of 2. So I'm actually going to put it back where it was, okay, because that's I think that's where it was, wasn't it? 52. If we just go and use autopilot settings again, yeah, that's right. So the sharpening in Topaz under the actual denoising, not the sharpening, I find just about perfect. We're also going to be processing these self-same 2 images in DXO, and this is all you see in DXO until we hit process now. And so what I'm going to do is hit process now, and we'll come up with this process 2 photos dialog box. I'm using Deep Prime EXD as the denoising, and I don't use lens distortion and I don't use vignetting corrections. I've actually got both of those turned off in Topaz as well, because the lens distortion corrections and the vignette corrections are not identical to what they are in DXO. They don't share each other's files for distortion and vignetting. I am going to correct the chromatic aberration because Topaz corrects for chromatic aberration as well. And so there you go. But I am not going to sharpen the output. Oh, go on. I think I might as well. But if you see, the lens softness can either be soft, standard, strong or hard. Okay, so at its softest setting, I find it a little tiny bit on the aggressive side. And when I use DXO for myself, I have it turned off and I only correct for chromatic aberration. But I suppose in all fairness, I ought to have lens softness turned on, but I'm only going to have it set to soft. Okay, output format DNG, going into the original image folder. So we'll go start processing. And as I say, I'm not going to be happy with the sharpening on the DXO one. I think it is a little tiny bit too aggressive. But we'll process these. They'll be just about done in a second. And I'm sorry, the anti-Adobe guys, but you are going to see a flash of Lightroom now because it's all interlinked with Lightroom on my machine. So I'm just going to go quit Lightroom Classic, quit, skip this time. Okie dokie. And there we go. So, and don't worry, if you've not got these plugins, I am going to be supplying all the files, including the 2 raw files. Don't try passing them off on your own, otherwise I shall be most peeved, yeah? But I'll put a link in the description below where you'll be able to download the 2 raw files, the 2 Deep Prime EXD files and the 2 Topaz files. Okie dokie. So we'll go processing done, thank you very much, and we'll quit Pure Raw 3. And so what we'll do now is come back to Topaz Photo AI, and you can see it's doing what it's doing here. No sharpening, detail 52, strength 2. We come over to the next shot here, which you've possibly seen before in another video, and raw denoising, it's coming in at strong again, this time strength 1 and detail at 55. And I'm just going to let it run at default, and we'll just go save 2 images to the original folder, format DNG. If we open up the format drop down menu, you can see it says preserve input format. That's just a load of junk, yeah, because it can't write CR2 files and it can't write NEF files. It actually writes DNG, so why they put that there, I don't know. I'm just going to switch out to DNG, and we will go say, and point of fact, we won't. What we'll do is we'll do preserve input format, but you see it's still going to be a DNG. So you know, you take your pick, don't you? So we'll click save, and we'll just wait a second, and that'll be done too. And then we'll go and open these in Raw Therapee and Darktable. Yeah, now the while I'm closing this out, the guys who are on Linux machines who are using Raw Therapee and or Darktable, I don't quite know how you're going to pull this one off. Either people who've got Linux machines and they've got a Windows 12 laptop, and they are moving images over onto the Windows machine and denoising them that way and then moving them back to their other machine. But if your machine has got enough poke in terms of CPU power and RAM and disk space, you could, I suppose, very easily go and put a virtual machine on and run either a Mac OS or a PC Windows operating system within the virtual machine. but I'm just illustrating the quality of this raw AI denoising, as you will see it in Raw Therapee, when viewed in Raw Therapee and when viewed in Darktable. As I say, all the contents of this folder I will make available to you, including the non-denoised DNG, which is a genuine Adobe DNG, and you'll see the difference shortly in the DNG formats. Alrighty, that's why I'm supplying this actual Adobe DNG, which is just this original raw file here run through the Adobe DNG converter, and that's the result. So everything that's in this folder will be made available for anybody to go and download off my, I think I'll put it on my Google Drive. But anyway, what I'm going to do is select these 4 images now. So let's select all 4, and then we'll go open with, and we'll go open with Raw Therapee. And there we go, and it's even brought the raw files in as well. Why? I have no idea, but well, so there you go, because it shouldn't have done, because I didn't tell it to, but hey-ho. And so you can see I've got a raw file, which is, I take it, that one. No, that one? Yes, there's the raw file. We've got the Deep Prime EXD and the Topaz Denoise DNG. Did I say EXD DNG? You know what I mean. There we've got the raw file, and we've got the Deep Prime DNG, and we've got the Topaz DNG. And if we look at the Topaz DNG for that, and all I'm going to do is just very simply, I'm just going to lift up on this curve here, and we will go into 100%, and there you go. I mean, you can do what you want with that. I just cannot fault it. Let's go and switch over to the Deep Prime, and there we go, and let's go and do roughly the same thing to that, and there you go. And if you'll just notice, don't forget, I did say I don't, for my own ends, I don't actually use the sharpening on DXO because I find it just a little bit on the aggressive side. But we did put it on at soft, in other words, as low as it'll go. And if you just notice, this is the one that I think is slightly too sharp, and there's the one that I think is just a little bit better. Let's just give it a little more of a lift. There we go. So I think the sharpening on that is absolutely perfect, and as you can see, absolutely no noise, even if we go in at 800%. I mean, it's mental. You do get 1 or 2 little artifacts which you need to touch up, possibly in GIMP or whatever. If you were going to print this image at sort of, 8 foot, because those little artifacts will print as well. So you might need to just go around the edges and do a little bit of cleanup. With the Deep Prime, I just find that just a little bit aggressive. But you'll notice the artifact on the end of the beak is a little bit more obvious inside the Topaz version than it is in the Deep Prime version. And actually, for image quality, IQ, I do actually find that, like I say, I don't usually sharpen in DXO. Don't do any lens softness corrections, and I'll use the sharpening, usually deconvolution sharpening in Raw Therapee. But I do find it just a little bit nicer. But I mean, this is blooming fine, really, I suppose. And when it comes to printing, you know, you're going to put print sharpening on it anyway, which is going to make it look bloody terrible. But, you know, I mean, you just compare that view of that image out of either one of these or with the raw file. And, I mean, it is really, truly quite amazing what we're doing here, you know, and just do the same adjustment to the raw file, and look at that, you know, I mean, there's a lot of noise on that. Yeah, I was right, 12,800 ISO. If we go to the other shot, okay, and we're fundamentally going to do the same operation here. I'm just going to come to the curve. I mean, there's dozens of ways you can lighten the image up, as I've already shown you, especially in Raw Therapee. This is where you see more of that sharpening. This is the deep prime, and just where you get dark to very light edges, in other words, very high contrast boundaries. I'm just a little bit wary. I think it looks a little bit crispy. And if I go to the Topaz one, and we just lift that one up, I just find that not quite as crispy. That edges are just that little bit cleaner. But like I say, you can go and download these files and just put a little curves lift on them yourself and have a play and see what you think. Alright, so that's Raw Therapee covered. Raw Therapee can see absolutely everything. But here's your problem. First off, with the Topaz DNG, we've got no way of changing the denoising algorithm, and we haven't got access to capture sharpening, so this level of sharpness we are stuck with. Okay, and the same goes for the Topaz, the DXO one. We are stuck with this level of sharpening because we've got no access to the actual demosaic and the capture sharpening. However, if I go to File Browser and I go to Genuine Adobe DNG. Now don't forget, this has got no noise reduction on it at all, but this is what a DNG should be like, because if you look under the Raw tab, I can go and select any one of these single or combination raw demosaic algorithms. I can change my chromatic aberration settings, I can choose my raw white points, I can change my process white balance, I can add a dark frame, I can add a flat field frame if I was doing astro work, and I've also got access to capture sharpening. Okie dokie. So that's what a proper DNG looks like. Alright, and those are the facilities given to you by a proper DNG. The DNGs that you get out of Topaz and DXO do not give you access to this. All this lot is already baked in. You cannot change it. So you need to be aware of that small sort of caveat. Okay, so I think I'm just about done with Raw Therapee. So I'm going to shut Raw Therapee down. And we're going to come back to these images again, and this time we're going to go open with a Darktable, and you're going to have a bit of a surprise here, so just wait for Darktable to fire up. What's with this Space Invaders? Topaz Denoised DNG is not available. Do they look like Space Invaders? Yes, they do. So, for some unknown reason, we cannot access these Topaz DNGs inside of Darktable. from what I've heard, it's not the first time, and believe it or believe it not, you didn't used to be able to use them inside of Raw Therapee either. But that was up till about 18 months, 2 years ago. Raw Therapee seems to not have a problem with them. Darktable does. If I go back to folder and I go to add to library, and we twiddle that and come there and say, yeah, add that one to library, which is the this one, which is the Adobe DNG, the correct DNG, if you like. If we come back to what's on, if you look at demosaicing, we can gain access to demosaicing, and we can choose any one of the available demosaicing algorithms inside of Darktable. But if I come back to Lighttable now and go back to this folder here, we have a problem. Like I say, the Topaz ones we can't open, and the Deep Prime, let's just come back to original, and what we're going to do. First of all, well, if we look at what's on, we haven't actually got the demosaicing tab here, and if we can find it, where is demosaicing? This is another nice thing. Some people who are new to Darktable might not know this. We can actually do a search. Demosaicing, not applicable to this image. Yeah, so you can't gain access to your demosaicing algorithms with the DXO DNGs here, which, you know, but at least we can blooming well open them, yeah, and work on them. And I suppose all we're going to do here is just come to the exposure tab, turn it on, and let's lift up the exposure a little bit. Okie dokie. There we go. Have we got any clipping? Let's go turn the clipping indicator on. Yeah, we've got a little bit of clipping in there. I don't mind the clipping in the eyes. You know, we could go and do a shadow adjust. We could go and tell you what we'll do. We'll what are we going to do? Are we going to leave exposure on or off? Let's turn it off and let's go to local contrast. Local contrast is usually quite good. Turn down the contrast in the highlights a little bit. Turn down the contrast in the midtones. Turn down the contrast in the shadows. I don't mind these little bits of specular clipping here, but the only thing is, what's possibly screwing it up, is the white balance, because we're in an as shot default, and so I might just go not necessarily to camera reference. I might go from image area, and there we go. So we could control the exposure in this in many ways in in Darktable. More ways than we can actually control it inside Raw Therapee. Let's come and look at the other DNG out of DXO, and I'm just going to turn the clipping indicator off. We don't need it turned on. This will probably just go under exposure, and I'll just turn it up to get it where I want it to. We can go into the shadow areas. Look at all the lovely detail in there, and up in here. We've got no noise in these shadows. We've got a very, very dark area here. And if I hold down, is it me Alt key? No. Shift key? No. Control key? That's the one. If we look inside this very, very dark area, it's some ludicrous 1600% mag, you can see we've got no noise. And I you know, I mean, what do you want to do for your money? You know, the nice thing is we can bring all sorts of tools to bear inside of Darktable. I still think it's a little bit crispy down here, but well, never mind. And I'm going to go to colour, and I'm going to go and turn on colour zones for this one. I'm going to get a pick and I'm just going to pick there the yellow with the beak, and so under saturation I'm going to lift the saturation up, and then under lightness I'm just going to drop it down a little bit just to try and preserve some detail on there. We'll come back to here. We've already got an exposure adjustment on there. So here's the other nice thing about Darktable, because I can then go and generate a new instance of the exposure adjustment, and I can quite simply come in with a drawn mask. I'm going all posh now. Mask. Come in with a drawn mask. We'll use a brush, and it used my scroll wheel to drop its size a little bit, and I'm just going to brighten up round the eye and over the eyebrow there, and then sort of sweep it back and come in there, rather like that. So we just put in a little bit of a blob on there, and just check the mask is the right way around. Yes, it is. Black and white conceals, yellow reveals. Really strange, but well, there you go. And all we're going to do is just add, well, we're going to come and click this icon here so we can't see the brush path, and I'm just going to lift the exposure there just a little tiny bit. Okay, and then do I want to go and put on a local contrast on this one? Let's turn it on. That makes it look a little bit too dark in the dark areas for me. So I'm going to turn the shadows down, and I might actually turn the mid-range down a little bit, and lift the highlights up, or maybe take them down a little bit. Don't know. Detail, just drop that a little smidge. Turn it off, turn it back on. I mean, that looks blooming marvellous to me. You know, and there's these nice tools that you've got in Darktable. You know, I mean, they can just make some great adjustments, local adjustments to your images. And of course, if you can start off with an image that's got totally no noise in it whatsoever, and got so much exposure latitude in it, it just makes your processing life just an awful lot easier, because ordinarily when you're processing these ISO noisy images, you're constantly being careful about what adjustments you make and the amount of adjustment you bring to bear and how carefully you mask things, because you're trying to do your level best to not exacerbate the noise that's already there. And then you're actually then going to try and denoise the image when you've got it to where you want it to be. And seeing as I'm giving you all these files for free, I challenge anybody, either in Darktable or Raw Therapee, to use Darktable or Raw Therapee's very good a while back, like 3 months ago, noise reduction techniques. And if you can come within 10% as good as the noise reduction in these images that you've seen me make today, and don't forget I've been making them just with fundamentally the default settings, then let me know. If you've got any grain in your images when you have a go at processing these, don't get in touch, because I'm just not interested. But if anybody can actually come within 10% of this level of noise reduction with the pre-existing noise reduction tools in Raw Therapee or Darktable, I would be interested to know how the hell they've done it. But don't just tell me about it. show me the result as well, otherwise I won't believe you. No. All right, guys and gals, that's just about it from me today. Hope you found that useful. Hope you found it interesting. Linux, guys, you need to have a serious think about how you can get hold of this AI technology. Now, at the end of the day, let me just say this. I wouldn't dream of deploying this AI denoising or raw denoising on my images unless they were actually suffering from an excess amount of noise. Anywhere from base ISO to 1 or 2000 ISO, I just wouldn't use this method of denoising, this AI denoising. I'm quite happy with the denoising facilities I've got in Lightroom, in Raw Therapee and in Darktable. But when you start to really push the boat out and start crippling your dynamic range on your camera because you've gone like 4, 5, 6, 7 stops above base or more, you're going to have problems, and those problems are very hard to get hold of or get on top of with conventional noise reduction, and yet they are just a simple clickety-click job with this new breed of raw AI denoising. So Linux users, you've got to face up to facts. You've somehow or other, if you produce these very high ISO noisy images that you find difficult to impossible to process under normal circumstances with the normal tools available to you, you've got to work out how to get yourself the ability to work with the likes of DXO or Topaz Deep Prime or Pure Raw 3 or whatever they call it. Just remember, if you're on Darktable, the Topaz one might be a little bit problematic for you. And Topaz, I don't know what it is, whether they are, whether they've got a drunk who actually codes their DNGs, because I can remember Topaz Denoise AI when it first came out. I've been using Raw Therapee for a while, and you could open the images in Raw Therapee, and then they did an update to Denoise AI, and you couldn't open the images. Then you could, then you couldn't, then you could, then you couldn't. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's as if the guy who does all the coding for it is either drunk or occasionally manic depressive. I don't know. But DXO just seem to be pretty consistent. And ever since I've been using DXO, which it's only this latest copy that I've actually paid for. All the rest I've tried in its various version guises, and they always seem to open in Darktable and they always seem to open in Raw Therapee. So there you go. As things stand, Raw Therapee's got slight versatility edge to it because it can open both. But the tools you have access to inside of Darktable are somewhat more expansive. So there you go. Anyway, I'm waffling on. And so until the next time, guys and gals, stay safe, stay well, keep taking the pictures, and I'll see you in the next one. Tooroo.